Welcome back to part 2 of my interview with Jennifer Davidson, part of the team of the Knot Whistleblowers. So if you are tuning in and have not listened to part 1, I would encourage you to stop the podcast now, go back to just one previous episode ago, listen to part 1, and then circle back and listen to part 2. So without further ado, here is part 2 of my interview with Jennifer Davidson, again, one of the 3 ladies that are part of the Knot Whistleblowers. Thanks for joining. Listen, we know this in America. We know that we have the right to speak, and we're really good at it. When there are things that are passionate to us, we will go pick it. We will go get loud and proud. We will post on social media. We as a country know how to do that, right? I am telling you, I'm asking you, please, if you've had a negative experience and you resonate with anything that we're saying today, you need to speak up. You really need to speak up. It matters. And none of this will go anywhere if it was just on Jennifer and the other 2 ladies. It's not it's not all on them. We need to take personal responsibility to protect our industry. This is a $70 billion industry, right? And I'm sure, and growing. And I think a lot of times people see this industry as an opportunity to cash in and to take advantage of us. And I'm all about, I'm not against the idea of a marketing platform. That's not what we're saying here. It's very important for us to have a place to market. I get that. I will say just, aside from all of this, spend your money on your own SEO. Spend your money on your own amazing monetized website and, I'm always telling my clients, spend it on your own. Don't spend money to boost someone else's SEO. Boost your own. That's just a little side tip for you there. But I do think us getting loud is really important. And speaking our truth is very, very important.
Well, I want to clarify, when I mentioned kind of the timeline of when we started speaking up internally 10 years ago in 2015, 2016. We stepped outside the company and, removed ourselves. Cindy stayed inside the walls of the company. She happened to be a fly on the wall and saw what happened after the companies combined. We felt like we were hoping that after the companies combined that what we observed as employees of the Knot would get better and they would clean things up. Unfortunately, what we observed was things actually got exponentially worse instead of better. And I won't go into too many details, but because we were reading what the vendors were saying about the way they were being sold, the way they were being ghosted, the fake leads, the way their credit cards were continuing to be billed long after they had tried to cancel, they weren't seeing their ads running where they were promised. Those reasons, we gathered over 5,000 of those. And we were like, God, it just made us honestly sick to our stomachs. We were like, we have got to find a way to do something, because not only did they get away with what started when we first started reporting, but it's gotten worse. So many more people are getting hurt. And so it was like, gosh, we are going to have to go public, which we felt was very risky. We were really concerned, and we had to invest to get top-notch First Amendment representation to advise us, to look at our evidence. And when we realized we were completely safe in speaking up, that's when we really, for the first time, I think, understood what the First Amendment meant. Because like you just said, Tirzah, we knew that if we wanted to demonstrate something, we would not be afraid at all to go, pick up a sign and make our voice heard or support something, protest something, whatever. We didn't understand at the time what it meant in the context of a corporate situation. Like everybody else, we were very, very scared. And we don't feel that way anymore. We realize that the First Amendment protects us, and it protects you. And as long as you are speaking what you believe to be true, you're fine. And, I believe that that's our understanding. And plus we have evidence, which is just incredible, to be able to back up what you're saying. But we have only been amplifying the voices of the vendors. that's really why we have been speaking up. We are just trying, we are looking at this saying, this is a disgraceful power imbalance. You know, you have all of these voices in the wilderness, these vendors who can't possibly afford to go out and hire representation. Some of the people have. Actually, you know, they say, hey, I had to hire a lawyer to make this, you know, make them stop billing my credit card, even though I wasn't in a contract anymore. So we just knew that we had to put a spotlight on what was happening to these small business owners. The American small business owner is the backbone of our economy. It's essential. It's who shows up when, you know, other companies are shut down. It's the American small business owner that shows up every day. It actually makes me very emotional to talk about. I mean,
Yeah.
Cindy and
Yeah.
Rachel and I are just very passionate about this. Hopefully you can tell that. But we just want the small business owners to know we are validating what you've been saying. We are lending our evidence to your voice. And we are so grateful that when we realized that we could petition Congress for this under the First Amendment, the industry has the right under the First Amendment to petition Congress, you know, for redress of a grievance. And that's exactly what's going on here. And I do want to give a huge shout out to Senator Grassley and his office, because they welcomed us with open arms from the minute we went to them. It was like such a breath of fresh air. I just can't tell you, they got it. They were incredibly astute. They saw that there was a problem and they took action, most importantly. They didn't just look at it in, you know, kind of way, like, should we, shouldn't we? They took action on behalf of this industry. But I think that they probably need to know from the industry that the industry appreciates that. And, you know, a lot of people signed a petition that a vendor had started. But there's also the form on Senator Grassley's website is actually not specific to the industry. It might even be a little bit confusing for people, because oftentimes people that report to him are government whistleblowers. So the form actually says, like, what agency are you reporting about, or organization. So it might be a little bit confusing. And I do want to give a little bit of context for that. But he is kind of known as the patron saint of whistleblowers, and has just been instrumental in writing the laws that protect Americans who speak up against, you know, all forms of wrongdoing. And he has just been incredible in his role in the United States Senate in that regard. And so we're very grateful.
Yeah.
That's who we knew to go to, and we think that was a smart move.
Yeah. No, I too am very grateful for that, because I feel like there's so many of us that are in the wedding industry that are, gosh, I love entrepreneurs. I just love them.
Yeah.
And I really feel like that is one of the best things about, like, being an American, is just that the American dream, and that we can go out there and start something from nothing and be successful and build our own dreams and not someone else's empire. And that's so very important. And I think, um, even if you haven't been, you know, hurt personally through this situation, I think, again, like, understanding what is happening and being willing to be loud and let our voices be heard about those that have been wronged is really important. You know, I am a person that is very passionate about justice and helping the underdog and helping the people that can't help themselves. And there's so many, also, I think in the venue space specifically, there's a little bit of an older generation in that space, because it takes a little bit more money to be in that venue space. Like, there are some younger ones coming up, but in general, like, you'll have younger generations doing photography and flowers and hair and makeup and all that kind of stuff. And so there's this older generation that I think is taken advantage of, because we are told that we need to do X, Y, and Z to be successful, and we don't even realize as venue owners that we're paying astronomically more than any other vendor. And so, again, I'm just saying this because I want you to understand, listeners, that this is going on, and maybe not to you, or maybe it is, and this is your chance to kind of look at what you're paying them and look at the return that you're getting on it. And it is in your right to ask questions. And that is why I, came at my direct representative at the Knot, and I just kept asking the same questions over and over and over and over. And I was even sent graphs, and I'm like, where did you get this graph from? Like, it's really fascinating. I feel like it wasn't even accurate at all. And I'm like, you guys, this is a fancy fake, like, I don't even know where they got this market analysis from for my business. Like, it didn't match anything that I had on my side. So that's another soapbox, I'm sure. But I just want you guys to be eyes wide open. I think that's what this is all about. Be eyes wide open and speak up. And we need to change this for the good of the long-term good of our industry. It's so very important.
Touching on what you just said, Tirzah,
Yes.
and
Yeah.
who makes up this industry, one of the things that we know and that really stands out to us is that the wedding space in particular, there's a lot of women-owned businesses, a tremendous amount of women-owned businesses. There's a lot of minority-owned businesses, and there's a lot of people that came to this country as immigrants to start a business and to build their own American dream. And so to talk to these people and listen to, I mean, they cry to us. People have told us stories of how they've had to shut down their business. And I think just even the pain of feeling like you're being scammed, it's not a good feeling. And so I did want to point that out about like your fellow vendors. A lot of the people that this impacts are kind of the least of these. And I'm not saying that men are not victims too. I'm just pointing out that the wedding space does happen to have a lot of women and minority-owned businesses that are sole proprietorships or very small. I mean, when you think about a small business like under a certain, several hundred people, these are micro businesses. These are, one or two women or one or, like an individual, photographer or, I mean, these are small businesses that they really have to be careful with their resources. And
yes, they're not making millions of dollars, right? For the most part, they're not making millions of dollars. I was doing a business assessment for one of my clients, and I always I want to see their last 3 years of P&Ls. And I was working with someone recently that has not drawn a salary for years because their venue is struggling. Yeah. And I looked at the marketing dollars that they were paying to the Knot and WeddingWire, and I was like, can you help me understand this? Like, you're not even paying yourself, but you're paying this marketing agency who's not bringing any leads to you over $2,000 a month. And you're not even paying yourself. I mean, think about how catastrophic that is for someone's livelihood. And, they're pouring their heart and soul into this business, and the Knot's getting a paycheck and they're not getting anything. I mean, that to me, when you talk about brings tears to your eyes, that hurts my heart to hear that someone is so afraid to let go of it's like this, and they are told, like, if you don't, then that's the end. Like, this is the only thing that really is sustaining you, and they're willing to take that money out of your hands. Yeah. And I think one of the last things I want to say to you that really gets my justice meter going crazy is when people do try to cancel that. Now listen, we know how complicated it is when we are our credit cards. If your credit card gets hacked, for instance, and you have to contact dozens and dozens of different places and give them your credit card information. Venues, specifically in this group that we're in, they talk about when they cancel with them, they have to actually cancel their credit card. Mm-hmm. And what that does with the time suck alone of us having to go fix all of that. And I paid everything at my venue on my credit card. So I get free miles to fly everywhere, right? And being able, and this has also been said by a lot of people, that they would actually, representatives would contact the credit card that got canceled and be able to get the new credit card information. Yes. And continue to charge them. Yes. When I heard that, not just from one person, but many, many, many people, mind blowing. That there is a room somewhere at the Knot where there are people whose whole job is to chase down money that and you have every right to cancel, by the way. And they may threaten you legal action. They send you scary letters that this is going to affect your credit if you don't pay. And they do a great job scaring the crap out of you for sure.
Well, I want, if you
So,
don't mind, one thing, if I could say
yeah,
before you wrap
yeah,
up, I do want to also let people know we are not saying that all of the not employees are bad or in on this. What I will say is that based on the employees that have come to us, they've made it very clear that they know exactly what they're doing. And so, what I would say is just like we had a very difficult decision to make about stepping out and not participating in that, we would view ourselves as co conspirators in a fraud scheme if we had stayed. And some of the employees have said to us that they were extremely confused. It's like that cognitive dissonance where you know something to be true in your heart, in your mind, but yet you're being told something is different than what you're seeing. And so it is extremely puzzling. It can slow your process in unpacking what's going on. We've had a couple of these employees. Oftentimes, actually, these are female employees that are much newer in their careers, that are a part of these rooms that are account managers or salespeople, and they just don't have the life experience and the job experience to really navigate the situation that they are in. Some of them have actually even gone as far as to tell us that they've had to go to counseling and get therapy. One person said to us that they just thought this was how business in America was done because the company was being allowed to do this for so long. And yet they said, I could not hit my sales numbers because I knew I was stealing. They keep saying to us, we know we are stealing, and they just tell us to steal more. If you don't hit this number, you're not going to get paid. If you call that customer back and they cancel, that's coming out of your budget. That sort of thing. That's what's being stated to us by employees. And so we don't mean to paint any of these people out in a negative light. We have walked in the shoes of a confused employee, and we understand. I mean, and they also say to us, look, I know it's wrong, but I need a job. Or I know it's wrong, but I support myself, or my husband is out of a job, or. And so we get that. But, for us at an older age when this happened to us and this whole thing first started, we had to ask ourselves if we wanted to be co-conspirators in this. And the answer was a hard no. And so we also really want to just lend kind of a sympathetic ear to people that are in that situation, that we've been there, and we're not trying to judge anyone. We're definitely not trying to tell people not to do business with the company. We've never done it. We have people ask us all the time, and we're like, I'm sorry, we can't advise you. We're just speaking up about what we know to be true, what our evidence shows. Do with that what you want. It's just, that's all we're doing is we're speaking up. We do have a website, the Knot Whistleblowers. There's information on there. There's resources. There's a link to the form that people can complete to Senator Grassley's office if they have a story they want to share. And that's really what it is. It's, people share their stories on social media all the time. Well, here's an opportunity for you to share a story where it can actually have an impact. And so, we want to thank Senator Grassley and his office for the hard work in looking into the allegations and advocating on behalf of this industry. We'd really like to see answers required. And we would like to see federal authorities, uphold the law and look into this and protect this cherished industry, because that's what it is. It's a huge American industry. It's a beloved American industry that impacts all Americans. And we didn't even touch on fake leads.
oh my gosh. Okay.
But with that said, thanks for having me.
Okay. Well, no, stop. How did we not? I think I breeze past it for a second. Listen, I know this has gone on long, but this is our chance to talk about this. If you've made it this far, I'm giving you a little clap in my studio here. Like, thanks for listening. We can't not talk about this. So I had said at the beginning that I had done my own research about like the percentage of leads that were coming in, because I was feeling really afraid to cancel with them, right? So and so I just wanted to be like, I want to make an informed decision, right? And so I would just encourage you guys to start tracking that this is my little piece of advice for you. Start tracking your leads and how many from these platforms aren't responding, and really get your own information. Okay. So I just want to say that that's what I did for myself, so that when I came to this marketing platform, I could say, hey, this is what I'm seeing. Because ultimately what happened is when I stopped advertising with them, I think it was in 2019, my conversion rate actually grew. Our leads did, I mean, nothing negatively impacted my business when I stopped marketing with them. Can I just say that? Nothing negatively impacted me. I was fine. I took that money, I put it into SEO for my own website, my own business, and we were totally fine. But because we aren't all talking, at the time in 2019, we weren't all talking about fake leads, even though I felt that they were fake. Now, this is a very, very big, loud thing. And others are experiencing the same. So what would you, here in just a couple of minutes, I know we've gone long, but what would you have to say to people that are feeling skeptical about the non-respondent or funky inquiries that are coming into their website?
Well, what I could say is, it's not our place to definitively say whether or not all of the leads that a vendor might be receiving are fake or not, or inauthentic, and where they might stem from. What I can say is what we do have evidence of. And what we do have evidence of is people coming to us and stating from the company that the company is, due to a shortage of consumers to satisfy the return on investment that all of the vendors, have established with the company, that they are, in their own words, facilitating inauthentic leads. And so what I mean by that is, what was said to us is that the company has developed a means where when someone first starts advertising with them, they quote unquote turn on a faucet and they do begin to receive some authentic leads, like real brides. But then a couple of months in, they turn off the faucet and they begin to funnel inauthentic leads to that business. And then as that vendor gets closer to renewing time, like when that 12-month contract would be up, they turn the faucet back on and they start to funnel authentic leads again. And it was described to us as giving the vendor FOMO, that they would have fear of missing out so that they would allow that contract to legitimately roll into the next phase and they'd be able to continue to bill them. So that's what we were told.
The faucet they would turn on, because this happened to me. I didn't know that that's what was happening, but I would complain about the leads that we have coming in, and all of a sudden, almost immediately, I have a bunch more real leads coming in, and I'm like, oh, maybe I am crazy, and all of a sudden a bunch of new real people would respond to me. And what's so interesting is like, oh, they turned the faucet back on me so that I wouldn't leave.
So that we have been told that. We have that very well documented as well. That is a consistent allegation by the vendors, that magically the minute they call to complain, almost within hours, if not a day or two, suddenly they get a real bride or two or three. And they, like you said, but somebody in a position who said that they knew of this practice, like they had firsthand knowledge of this practice from the company, describe this to us. These are not my words. These are not the Not Whistleblowers words. I am merely repeating what has been stated to us. We also have evidence of other things that it should probably just leave in the proper hands of people that can do something about it. But I think that when people find out what's really going on, it's going to be a big deal. I think that there's some things going on, and American businesses are being preyed upon in ways that American authorities would not like. And it's really quite shocking. And I personally think it's part of the reason why this has been allowed to just be brushed aside and brushed under the rug over and over again, is that the allegations that we are making and that the businesses themselves are making are so shocking. It's like, oh my God, no way would a company be doing this. And so it just sort of almost seems too crazy to be real. And so it's like something hiding in plain sight. And so that would be my answer. I mean, I'm not at all saying on our behalf that all the leads that businesses are getting are fake. I am telling you that the company's own employees are telling us, yes, we do this because we don't have enough real brides to go around, and we know it. And it's a massive problem for the company. The company, and I want to point this out too. The company always says in response to these articles in the press, oh, well, we would have, no motivation. That doesn't benefit us or the vendors. They're the only ones that it benefits to send out fake leads. They need optics. Are they not the ones receiving the financial gain? They're the ones who receive financial gain if it appears to a vendor that they're getting a return on their investment. There's nothing else in it for anyone else. Who has something to gain here? So I just want to debunk that answer from them. I would argue that they actually do have something to gain. And so I would say that. And there's just so much here that we have not touched on. There's just so much more, much more. It's just overwhelming. Again, that's just part of the problem. It's like, what area do we focus on here? There's these aspects, there's the financial aspect, there's the consumer, harm aspect. There's, it's a lot. It's a big matter with a lot of tentacles to it. And, but at the end of the day, I would just say this from our perspective as whistleblowers, people speaking up. I hate the term whistleblowers, but people speaking up. What I would say is that this has been a company that's been in trouble for a really long time financially, and facing like a business problem, and that has been transferred onto the backs of the American small business owner. So it's like, we're going to take our problem and we're going to put it on you. And all of this harm, I don't see how thousands upon thousands of small businesses can be saying, cut and paste the exact same allegations. It's over and over again. If you read the allegations from the businesses, it's not like there's a variance. They're all saying the same thing. How in the world can that be dismissed? I would like to know how that can be dismissed. I don't think that tens of thousands of businesses are making this up. And I know with my own eyeballs, my own experience, the other two women, the other employees that have stampeded to us, but look, I do want to say this too, to employees. This is good general knowledge for everyone. Non-disclosure agreements in any situation with any company never prevents somebody from being able to share information with federal regulators, with law enforcement, or an elected official. So a lot of people, might say, oh, I signed a non-disclosure agreement. Well, you can always speak up and tell the truth if there's wrongdoing that is believed to be, occurring. And so that does not prohibit somebody from sharing information. I just say that in a general sense, that's something where we'd like to see Americans more educated as to what non-disclosures mean. But again, we did not sign non-disclosure agreements. We passed on the opportunity to benefit financially from this and sell our silence and accept hush money. And, we are so glad that we had the foresight to do that. I don't know how we did, because we didn't know what we were doing. We were just trying to put our feet in the next place that made sense as we came to like these forks in the road in trying to expose what has been going on. And I'm just so grateful that we preserved our birthright, our First Amendment rights, our voice. It's precious, and it is to be valued and protected.
Absolutely.
I'm glad we did.
That's a very good note to end on. And I will tell you from past experience in a different company, but I have in my career signed a non-disclosure for money. And
do you regret it?
I deeply regret it with every fiber of my being. Every fiber of my being.
You just kind of gave me chills. Sorry, that just, I just got like the hair on the back of my neck just stood up. Sorry. I don't know why that hit me like that, but...
It harmed my soul in a deep way. And so I would just say, because I knew it wasn't right. I knew that they were asking me to be quiet about something that was hurting other people. And it was in a network marketing company that was struggling, and I was one of their top leaders, and they they wanted me to be quiet. And so I
So
signed
you
this thing. They
know,
gave me money. I know. And it's
yes.
terrible. And so I don't know if we're going to have a lot of, employees of the Knot or WeddingWire listening, but in any industry, be very careful about signing those types of documents and being silenced,
Yeah,
because
I
there
say that
is
in a general sense. I'm not speaking to the
exactly,
not employees. I'm actually saying
yeah,
to the not
in
employees, if
general.
you're
Yeah.
confused, I understand we've walked in your shoes. In
Yeah,
general, I want people to
absolutely.
know that non-disclosure agreements.
Hmm.
But, Tirzah, you talked about just a second ago your personal experience. If I could share something personal, so Rachel LaFera, huge patriot, family came here from another country, not all that, long ago, a couple generations ago, a generation ago. Well, Cindy and I, as sisters, we have the knowledge of knowing that I think it's like our 6 or 7 great grandfather, he and his brothers signed up to fight in the American Revolution on the same day. We are direct descendants of a patriot that was willing in North Carolina, actually, your state, for the North Carolina Regiment in like 1775, went and signed up and to fight so that we could have the First Amendment. And so when Cindy and I talked about this and what we should do and like going public with the allegations we had been making for such a long time, we're like, how could we not speak up? Like if someone else we are here today because of our ancestor was willing to lay down his life to give us this document and help establish that for all Americans, how on earth could we not speak up? It would be disgraceful for us not to. And so, with that in our hearts, it was like, this is an honor. This is such a privilege. And, we are just really honored to be able to be a small part of this. If we can help the industry in some
Yeah.
way,
Yeah.
then what a
Absolutely.
privilege.
Yeah,
And I'm
absolutely.
sorry
And
for
it's
what
very
happened
well
to you.
said.
I'm really sorry.
Oh,
It
well,
happens
we
to
live
more
and we learn.
people, but about 2/3 of Americans are bound to silence under an NDA, and typically it's just
Hmm.
used to serve bad actors, and it perpetuates fraud. But in the age of AI, we really need people to speak up that are seeing things as we deal with and grapple with new technology that we don't understand. We need
What?
people that are
Yeah.
brave enough. We need Boeing whistleblowers. We need, Meta whistleblowers. We need people like that to speak up
Yeah.
and tell other people, hey, I see something that I need to warn others about. And we don't want people to be afraid. Don't be
Yeah.
afraid. Do the right thing. You know what
Yeah.
the right thing to do is. Just do
Absolutely.
it.
Yeah, and it's not going to take you long. Take 10 minutes and fill out a form on Senator Grassley's website. We will link that in the show notes. We're not asking a lot of you. We're just asking for 10 minutes to share your story and to let your voice be heard about what's really going on. So I want to thank you for being on the show today, Jennifer. I know that this was a very heavy topic, a little bit different than the normal vibe of the show. But again, I created this podcast to be of a value to an industry and specifically the venue space that I love so dearly. And we are the front door to this industry. If there's not venues, there's not really a wedding industry, right?
Yeah.
And so the venues, we have a lot to gain and a lot to lose. And so this podcast is here to bring knowledge, to bring education, to just bring enlightenment to some of these things that you might not otherwise understand, like how wide and how deep it is, just because you got your head down in the sand trying to survive running your
Right.
businesses. And so I totally get that. But I just want to thank listeners for uh, just being here, for hearing these stories, for being willing to take the time to go let your voice be heard. And this is not the end of the story. There will be more coming, and I'm sure, and as things evolve, Jennifer will have you back on in future months. But I do want to thank you and the other two ladies for being brave and letting your voices be heard. I've heard comments and it always kind of bugs me a little bit when people don't know the heart of someone, right? And I just want to speak to the heart of you because we've been friends now for a couple of years. We've talked a lot about this, and we share a lot of we're like-minded in many, many areas. And I just want to speak to what I see to be true in you specifically, that there is a genuine heart for good and not gain in this situation. And that there have been people that have commented like, why are you just not talking about it? Well, that just means you haven't been listening. It's been talked about. I've been talking about it for since 2019, and others have. You aren't the only one. There are other people that I know are putting together more formal complaints. I will just leave it at that. There's other people that are really wanting to take this to the next level. There are people that are very public about it in social media. Like Jennifer and the whistleblowers aren't the only ones. And so I'm glad to see that there is some momentum with people sharing their
Yeah,
stories.
I do. I didn't touch on this, but we're not a part of any class action, and we never have been. We're not involved in any way. We're not vendors, so we've never taken legal action to pursue or sue the company in any way. We From the beginning, we kept saying we were speaking up for our clients. It was always, my clients aren't getting what they paid for. My clients aren't getting that, and they should be. Every single step of the way, it's always been about the clients. I mean, a lot of the people within the sound of earshot of this, maybe I worked with you, maybe you were my client, you were Cindy's client, you were Rachel's client. We had friendships with these small businesses in the industry. Some of them were large businesses, but most of them were small business owners. And those were very personal relationships to us. We were distraught knowing that they were being defrauded, and so that's why we've been speaking up. That's why we took the step of going public when all else failed. Just know we've been speaking up for 10 years, and we've been speaking up outside the walls of the company since 2017. And then, we went public because nothing was being done about it, and we just didn't know what else to do. We kept going to the government. And so finally it was, we need to go to Congress. And to the press, and the press has been great. The press, and there's so much more that the press knows that they have not reported on, and we believe that's to come. There's so much more that the press knows, but even the press can be bullied, Tirzah. Even the press can be bullied, and so we're just going to keep doing, But now it's time, like you said, it's time for the industry to speak up.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, again, thank you, listeners, for being here. Thank you for taking the time to absorb this very heavy topic, but it's really important. When I talk about the tools of the trade, the pros behind the process, there is so much that goes into running an effective business, and I think that it would be really a detriment to the industry if I'm talking about these pros and not talking about the biggest marketing agency in America and what they are and what they are doing. So this really is a very important part of this season and this topic that we've been on for weeks now. So more to come later, but thank you again for joining in, for listening. Thank you, Jennifer, and stay tuned for some of our future amazing episodes on the Venue Success Podcast. See you next time.
Thank you so much, Tirzah. Have a great day.